Question 1. Topic: Naturalization and citizenship. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise in determining eligibility for naturalization, an applicant seeks U.S. citizenship but has spent significant time outside the country over the past 5 years. The applicant has resided in the U.S. for a total of 3 years but has been absent for extended periods, including a continuous 14-month absence. Additionally, the applicant has no tax filings for the years they were abroad. Based on U.S. naturalization law, how should this case be adjudicated? A. The applicant qualifies for naturalization as they meet the 3-year residency requirement. B. The applicant is ineligible because a continuous absence of over 6 months disrupts continuous residence. C. The applicant qualifies as long as they provide an affidavit explaining the absence. D. The applicant is eligible only if they were employed by the U.S. government during their time abroad. Answer: B. The applicant is ineligible because a continuous absence of over 6 months disrupts continuous residence. Explanation: under 8 U.S.C. SS 1427, the applicants for naturalization must meet continuous residence requirement, typically 5 years or 3 years for spouses of U.S. citizens. However, continuous absence of more than 6 months but less than a year creates presumption of break-in residency, while an absence of 1 year or more automatically disrupts continuous residence. 8 COS 316.5 C1I. Option A is incorrect because even though the applicant meets the 3-year residence requirement, the continuous residence requirement is separate and has been broken. Option C is incorrect because an affidavit alone is not enough to overcome 14-month absence. The applicant must re-establish residence and wait before reapplying. Option D is incorrect unless the applicant was employed by the U.S. government, an international organization, or in another qualifying role under an SS 316. B. This question tests candidates' understanding of continuous residence, physical presence, and exceptions under U.S. naturalization law. Question 2. Topic: Grounds of inadmissibility and deportability. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in immigration proceedings, a lawful permanent resident LPR is convicted of a theft-related offense and sentenced to 8 months in jail. 2 years later, the LPR is convicted of a separate offense involving fraud and sentenced to 4 months in jail. The LPR is placed in removal proceedings under INSS 137A2. Which of the following best describes the likely outcome of their case? A. The LPR is not removable because neither offense is classified as an aggravated felony. B. The LPR is removable because they have committed 2 crimes involving moral turpitude since after admission. C. The LPR is only removable if the total combined sentence exceeds 1 year. D. The LPR can avoid removal by demonstrating good moral character. Answer: B. The LPR is removable because they have committed 2 crimes involving moral turpitude since after admission. Explanation: under an SS 237A 2, LPR is removable if they are convicted of 2 crimes involving moral turpitude, since that did not arise out of a single scheme of criminal misconduct. Theft and fraud are both commonly classified as sins. Matter of Diaz Araga 26, Dec. 847. Beer 2016 confirms that theft-related offences involving intent to permanently deprive are sins, and Matter of Kuchlani 24 in Dec. 128. Beer 2007 establishes that fraud is sin. The sentences 8 months and 4 months are irrelevant in this case because the removal grounds for multiple sins do not require sentence threshold. Option A is incorrect because the LPR is removable based on 2 sins, regardless of whether they are aggravated felonies. Option C is incorrect because the 1-year sentence threshold applies to single simp removability under ANA SS 237A 2AI, but not multiple simps. Option D is incorrect because while good moral character is relevant for relief, it does not prevent removability under this section. This question tests the removal grounds for multiple simps and the distinction between aggravated felonies and simp-based removability. Question 3. Topic: Consular processing and adjustment of status. In a situation where formal requirements conflict with discretionary decision-making, a foreign national applies for an immigrant visa through consular processing. The applicant was previously denied a tourist visa due to suspected intent to immigrate but now has an approved family-based petition. However, the consular officer denies the immigrant visa under an SS 220G, citing lack of sufficient documentation to prove the bona fide nature of the relationship. The applicant submits additional proof, but after 6 months no final decision is made. What is the most appropriate legal remedy? A. The applicant should reapply from scratch, as consular officers have non-reviewable discretion. B. The applicant can file a lawsuit in federal court to compel the government to make decision. C. The applicant should request an advisory opinion from the Department of State. D. The applicant can file an appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals, BIA. Answer B. The applicant can file a lawsuit in federal court to compel the government to make a decision. Explanation. Under an SS 221G, consular officer can refuse an immigrant visa if the application is incomplete or additional evidence is needed. However, if visa is placed in administrative processing for an extended period, the applicant may seek relief through writ of mandamus in federal court. Mandamus relief 28 U.S.C. SS 1361 allows an applicant to ask court to compel an agency to act when it has failed to make decision within reasonable time. Option A is incorrect because while consular decisions are generally non-reviewable, claimed v. Mandel 408 U.S. 753, 1972, delays in decision-making can be challenged in federal court. Option C is incorrect because advisory opinions from the Department of State do not compel action and are rarely practical remedy. Option D is incorrect because BIA does not have jurisdiction over consular processing denials, as those decisions fall under the Department of State, DHS. This question tests knowledge of consular processing, administrative delays, and judicial remedies in immigration law. Question 4. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, an asylum seeker fleeing persecution in their home country submits an application for asylum in the United States. However, they missed the one-year filing deadline due to a natural disaster that destroyed critical documentation, preventing them from applying earlier. The applicant now seeks to justify their late filing by demonstrating the extraordinary circumstances outlined in U.S. immigration law. Which of the following is the most accurate statement regarding their eligibility for asylum despite the missed deadline? A. The applicant is automatically barred from asylum because missing the one-year deadline is an absolute disqualifier regardless of circumstances. B. The applicant may still be eligible for asylum if they can prove that the natural disaster qualifies as an extraordinary circumstance and that they applied within a reasonable time after the impediment was resolved. C. The applicant must instead apply for temporary protected status (TPS) because asylum applications are never considered even with valid justifications. D. The applicant must show that their country was designated for deferred enforced departure (DED) in order to bypass the one-year asylum deadline. Answer B. The applicant may still be eligible for asylum if they can prove that the natural disaster qualifies as an extraordinary circumstance and that they applied within a reasonable time after the impediment was resolved. Explanation. The Immigration and Nationality Act in ASS 208A2B imposes one-year deadline for asylum applications from the applicant's last entry into the U.S. However, in SS 208A2D provides exceptions for extraordinary circumstances that directly relate to the failure to meet the deadline. The applicant must demonstrate that the natural disaster materially affected their ability to file and that they submitted their application within reasonable time once the impediment was resolved. Courts have recognized severe medical conditions, legal disability, and the destruction of documentation as potential extraordinary circumstances. In contrast, A is incorrect because the one-year deadline is not absolute. There are statutory exceptions. C is incorrect because TPS is separate humanitarian relief mechanism that depends on DHS country designations, not an alternative to asylum. D is incorrect because deferred enforced departure (DED) is discretionary relief granted by the President and does not asylum protections. Question 5. While investigating a complicated issue between different federal agencies, an employer in the U.S. is sponsoring a foreign national under the H-1 visa program. The employer files a labor condition application (LCA) and submits an H-1 petition to USCIS. However, after the petition is approved, the Department of Labor (DOL) conducts an audit and finds discrepancies in the LCA wage attestations. The employer argues that the error was minor and did not impact the worker's wages. What are the potential consequences of this discrepancy? US immigration law. A. The employer is required to submit a corrected LCA but faces no penalties as the H1 petition has already been approved. B. The employer may be subject to fines, back wage payments, and possible debarment from future H1 sponsorships if found in violation of wage obligations. C. The foreign worker must immediately leave the U.S. since any LCA error automatically invalidates the H1 visa. D. The USCIS will take over the investigation from the DOL, as only USCIS has the authority to enforce H1 wage compliance. Answer B. The employer may be subject to fines, back wage payments, and possible debarment from future H1 sponsorships if found in violation of wage obligations. Explanation. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, in ASS 212N, the Department of Labor (DOL) is responsible for ensuring employer compliance with the wage and working condition requirements of the H1 visa program. The employer must attest LCA that the foreign worker will be paid the prevailing or actual wage for their occupation. Violations may result in civil penalties, back wage orders, and debarment from future H1 petitions. 20 CFR 655.810. A is incorrect because LCA errors are not automatically correctable after an audit, and then penalties may apply. C is incorrect because LCA discrepancies do not necessarily invalidate an H1 visa, though they may trigger revocation proceedings. D is incorrect because the DOL, not USCIS, enforces wage-related H1 compliance. Question 6. When scaling up operations that experience significant workforce changes, a multinational company with employees on L1 visas undergoes a corporate restructuring. The foreign employees were originally transferred under the L1 and L1 visa categories, but their new roles now involve significantly different job duties. USCIS initiates a compliance review and requests further evidence regarding the visa holder's eligibility. Which of the following is the most likely outcome under U.S. immigration law? A. The employees must file new L1 petitions if their job duties and corporate structure have materially changed. B. The L1 visa holders can remain in the U.S. under their original petitions as long as they still work for the same employer regardless of job role changes. C. The employer can simply notify us of the restructuring without requiring any action from the visa holders. D. The employees must leave the U.S. immediately as corporate restructuring automatically voids L1 status. Answer A. The employees must file new L1 petitions if their job duties and corporate structure have materially changed. Explanation. L1 visa eligibility depends on the petitioner maintaining a qualifying corporate relationship and the foreign worker continuing in an appropriate executive, managerial, or specialized knowledge role. A material change in job duties or corporate structure can require the filing of an amended or new under 8 CFR 214.2 L7. B is incorrect because L1 status is job. An employer-specific and significant changes may require USCIS approval. C is incorrect because merely notifying USCIS does not suffice if material change in job duties occurs. D is incorrect because corporate restructuring does not automatically void L1 status. However, compliance must be ensured. Question 7. When evaluating a case involving multiple conflicting legal standards, a non-immigrant student on an F1 visa seeks optional practical training after completing their degree. However, due to delays in processing their opt application, their F1 status expires before receiving an employment authorization document (EAD). The student is unsure whether they can remain in the U.S. while waiting for the decision on their application. Which of the following best describes their legal status and options? A. The student must leave the U.S. immediately after their F1 status expires, as opt is not a lawful basis for remaining in the country. B. The student can remain in the U.S. for up to 60 days under the F1 grace period, but they must depart if the EAD is not approved within that time. C. The student may stay in the U.S. under the gap extension rule, which automatically extends their F1 status while their opt application is pending. D. The student is in unlawful presence once their F1 status expires and must apply for reinstatement before their opt can be approved. Answer B. The student can remain in the U.S. for up to 60 days under the F1 grace period, but they must depart if the EAD is not approved within that time. Explanation. Under 8 CFR 214.2 F of Roman F, and students are granted 60-day grace period following the expiration of their program or authorized stay. However, this grace period does not automatically authorize work unless the student has already received an approved OPTED. The application is still pending after the grace period. The student must leave the US and wait abroad for decision. Is incorrect because the 60-day grace period allows the student to remain temporarily in the US. C is incorrect because the cap gap extension applies only to F1 students transitioning to H1, not those applying for standard post-completion opt. D is incorrect because unlawful presence does not begin immediately after F1 status ends due to the grace period. Question 8. If a major policy change alters the way regulations are interpreted, a U.S. employer sponsoring a foreign worker under the Perm Labor certification process for an EP2 visa is audited by the Department of Labor (DOL). The employer is required to provide documentation proving they properly tested the labor market and did not find qualified U.S. workers. The employer argues that they complied with all requirements but failed to retain some advertising records due to a clerical error. Which of the following is the most likely outcome of the audit? A. The labor certification will be automatically denied because failure to retain required records is a material violation of PERM regulations. B. The employer may submit a written explanation, and if the DOL finds it credible, the case may proceed without the missing documentation. C. The DOL may issue a request for additional evidence, RE, allowing the employer time to recreate missing records to the best of their ability. D. The employer restart the entire PERM process, as audits require strict adherence to documentation requirements without exceptions. Answer. A. The labor certification will be automatically denied because failure to retain required records is a material violation of PERM regulations. Explanation. Under 20 CFR S 656.10 F, employers must retain all PERM-related records for at least 5 years in case of an audit. Failure to produce required documents typically results in automatic denial because proper recruitment records are essential, proving the absence of qualified U.S. workers. B is incorrect because written explanation alone is not sufficient without the required documentation. C is incorrect because DOL audits do not typically allow additional evidence submissions beyond what was initially retained. D is incorrect because while the employer may need to restart the process, some minor documentation issues might not always lead to full case denial. Question 9. As global migration patterns shift due to geopolitical instability, a foreign national applies for adjustment of status to become a U.S. permanent resident through marriage to a U.S. citizen. However, during the interview with USCIS, the officer notices discrepancies in the couple's testimony regarding their relationship history. The applicant insists that their marriage is genuine, but USCIS issues notice of intent to deny NOID. What should the applicant do next to respond effectively? A. Submit additional documentary evidence, such as joint financial records, lease agreements, and affidavits, to demonstrate the legitimacy of the marriage. B. Withdraw the adjustment application and reapply later with stronger case as NOID cannot be successfully challenged. C. File an immediate appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals, BIA, arguing that the interview process was unfair. D. Wait for USCIS to make final decision before taking further action, as responding to the NOID is optional. Answer. A. Submit additional documentary evidence, such as joint financial records, lease agreements, and affidavits, to demonstrate the legitimacy of the marriage. Explanation. When USCIS issues a notice of intent to deny NOID, the applicant has the opportunity to respond within the given time frame, typically 30 days. The best course of action is to provide additional evidence demonstrating that the marriage is bona fide. 8 error S 103.2b. 8b is incorrect because withdrawing and reapplying does not necessarily strengthen the case and may raise further suspicion. C is incorrect because NOID is not final denial and cannot be appealed. It must be addressed through direct response to USCIS. D is incorrect because failing to respond to NOID will result in automatic denial of the application. Question 10. While coordinating immigration compliance across multiple jurisdictions, a company hiring foreign workers under the Verify program is found to have inconsistencies in how it verifies employees' work authorization. Some employees were given additional time to provide required documents, while others were immediately terminated when they could not present them on the first day. Which of the following best describes the legal implications of the situation? A. The company may be found in violation of anti-discrimination provisions of the Immigration and Nationality Act for inconsistent employment verification practices. B. The company is protected under the Verify program and cannot be penalized as long as they attempted to verify employees in good faith. C. The company must report the inconsistencies to the Department of Homeland Security (DHS) but faces no penalties if the mistakes were unintentional. D. The company can continue its current practices as long as all employees eventually submit their documents, even if verification procedures vary. Answer A. The company may be found in violation of anti-discrimination provisions of the Immigration and Nationality Act for inconsistent employment verification practices. Explanation. Under 8 U.S.C. SS 1324, employers must follow consistent verification procedures to avoid discrimination based on national origin or citizenship status. Selective enforcement of documentation requirements can result in penalties from the Department of Justice's Immigrant and Employee Rights Section. B is incorrect because participation in E-Verify does not shield employers from liability for discriminatory practices. C is incorrect because self-reporting inconsistencies does not eliminate potential penalties. D is incorrect because federal law requires uniform employment verification practices to ensure fairness. Question 11. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being restructured, a multinational company is migrating its enterprise resource planning system to a cloud-based solution. Midway through the transition, discrepancies appear in financial reporting, with certain transactions failing to reconcile across the old and new systems. What steps should the company take to ensure data integrity and prevent financial misstatements? A. Halt the migration process immediately and revert to the previous system until all discrepancies are resolved. B. Continue the migration without interruption and address data inconsistencies after the transition is complete. C. Implement a parallel reconciliation process comparing outputs from both systems and identifying root causes before proceeding. D. Assign different teams to work on separate aspects of the migration, ensuring at least partial functionality across departments. Answer C. Implement a parallel reconciliation process comparing outputs from both systems and identifying root causes before proceeding. Explanation. A parallel reconciliation process ensures that financial records remain accurate while identifying issues before full system deployment. Stopping the migration can cause disruptions in proceeding without addressing discrepancies. B. Risks financial misstatements. Assigning separate teams. D. Improve efficiency but does not resolve the core reconciliation issue. Question 12. When dealing with a complex system that shows occasional performance fluctuations, an AI-driven customer service chatbot deployed by a large retailer sometimes provides incorrect responses due to inconsistent natural language processing (NLP) outputs. Customers report confusion and complaints rise about misleading information. What is the best approach for improving chatbot accuracy and maintaining customer trust? A. Shut down the chatbot temporarily in conduct. A full redesign of the NLP model before redeploying it. B. Implement real-time monitoring and feedback loops, refining the model continuously based on user interactions. C. Limit chatbot responses to predefined scripted answers to minimize variability in responses. D. Rely on human agents to verify all chatbot-generated responses before they are sent to customers. Answer B. Implement real-time monitoring and feedback loops, refining the model continuously based on user interactions. Explanation. Continuous refinement through real-time monitoring helps identify inconsistencies and improve accuracy dynamically. Shutting down the chatbot can disrupt service while relying solely on scripted answers. C. Reduces flexibility. Human verification. D. Is impractical at scale. Question 13. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges must be managed simultaneously, a hospital is implementing a new patient management system to improve coordination between emergency inpatient and outpatient departments. However, the transition is causing delays in critical care coordination. What is the most effective strategy for minimizing disruptions while ensuring long-term success? A. Immediately revert to the previous system to avoid further complications. B. Train staff in phases, ensuring that key personnel in each department can gradually adapt to the new system. C. Implement the system fully at once and require all departments to adjust simultaneously. D. Outsource emergency department functions to third-party providers during the transition period. Answer B. Train staff in phases, ensuring that key personnel in each department can gradually adapt to the new system. Explanation. Phased training allows departments to adjust gradually, reducing disruptions in critical care. Reverting to the old system delays progress, while full implementation without preparation can create widespread confusion. Outsourcing emergency care is costly and impractical. Question 14. while investigating a complicated issue between different regulatory frameworks. A multinational corporation faces compliance challenges due to conflicting data privacy laws in the European Union and the United States. Which strategy best ensures compliance while maintaining operational efficiency? A. Apply the strictest regulatory standard globally, even if it limits operational flexibility. B. Develop region-specific compliance protocols to align with local regulations while optimizing business operations. C. Ignore less restrictive regulations and follow only the most lenient privacy laws to maximize efficiency. D. Suspend operations in regions with conflicting regulations until global standards are established. Answer: B. Develop region-specific compliance protocols to align with local regulations while optimizing business operations. Explanation: region-specific compliance protocols balance legal adherence with operational efficiency. Applying the strictest standard A may be unnecessarily restrictive while following only lenient laws. C. Risks penalties. Suspending operations. D. Is not a viable long-term strategy. Question 15. During a comprehensive review of a process that needs improvement, a manufacturing company notices increasing defect rates in its automated production line. Initial investigations reveal inconsistencies in machine calibration across different shifts. Which actions should be prioritized to restore consistency in production quality? A. Replace the automated system entirely to eliminate potential long-term failures. B. Conduct real-time monitoring and implement standardized calibration checks at the start of each shift. C. Reduce production volume to minimize defect rates until further investigation is completed. D. Assign different calibration standards to each shift based on individual operator preferences. Answer: B. Conduct real-time monitoring and implement standardized calibration checks at the start of each shift. Explanation: standardized calibration checks prevent defects and maintain consistency. Replacing the system A is expensive and unnecessary. Reducing volume. C. Does not address the root cause. Shift-specific calibration. D. Introduces variability. Question 16. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment, a cybersecurity team enforces multi-factor authentication (MFA) across all company accounts. Some employees resist the change, citing inconvenience, leading to an increase in support requests. What is the best approach to ensure successful adoption? A. Provide training and phased implementation, addressing concerns while emphasizing security benefits. B. Enforce MFA immediately without exceptions to ensure compliance. C. Offer MFA as an optional feature to accommodate employees resistant to the change. D. Remove MFA requirements for departments that show the most resistance. Answer: A. Provide training and phased implementation, addressing concerns while emphasizing security benefits. Explanation: a phased approach with training improves adoption rates while ensuring security. Immediate enforcement. B. May cause backlash while making MFA optional. C. D. Weakens security. Question 17. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple business units, a logistics company faces shipping delays due to inconsistent inventory tracking between warehouses. What is the best solution for improving supply chain coordination? A. Centralize inventory management under a single digital platform with real-time updates. B. Increase warehouse staffing to compensate for inefficiencies. C. Maintain separate inventory tracking systems for each warehouse to allow flexibility. D. Outsource logistics management to third-party providers. Answer: A. Centralize inventory management under a single digital platform with real-time updates. Explanation: a centralized digital system enhances real-time visibility and coordination, increasing staffing. B. Does not solve tracking inefficiencies, while separate systems. C. Exacerbate inconsistencies. Outsourcing. D. Adds complexity without addressing internal issues. Question 18. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in software deployment, a tech firm experiences repeated failures when rolling out updates to its cloud-based application. Users report frequent bugs after each release. Which action would most effectively improve the deployment process? A. Adopt a continuous integration, continuous deployment. C. Pipeline with automated testing. B. Extend deployment timelines to allow more manual quality assurance checks. C. Release all updates at once to reduce the frequency of changes. D. Allow users to report issues post-release and address them in future updates. Answer: A. Adopt a continuous integration, continuous deployment. C. Pipeline with automated testing. Explanation: Stick with automated testing ensures stable releases. Extending timelines. B slows innovation while releasing all updates at once. C increases risk, relying on user feedback. D causes customer dissatisfaction. Question 19. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs, a government agency designs a tax reform policy balancing revenue generation with economic growth incentives. Which approach best achieves this balance? A. Implement progressive tax rates while offering targeted deductions for economic stimulation. B. Raise corporate tax rates across all industries to increase government revenue. C. Reduce all taxes to promote economic growth regardless of budgetary constraints. D. Apply uniform tax rates without consideration for economic impact. Answer: A. Implement progressive tax rates while offering targeted deductions for economic stimulation. Explanation: progressive rates with targeted deductions provide balance. Raising corporate taxes. B. May deter investment while reducing all taxes. C. Risks budget deficits. Uniform rates. D. Ignore economic nuances. Question 20. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, a city implements evacuation plans after a natural disaster but faces congestion and delays. Which strategy would improve evacuation efficiency? A. Establish pre-designated routes with real-time traffic monitoring. B. Allow residents to choose their evacuation paths freely. C. Use a first-come, first-served approach to manage traffic flow. D. Delay evacuation until full damage assessments are completed. Answer: A. Establish pre-designated routes with real-time traffic monitoring. Explanation: pre-designated routes with monitoring ensure orderly evacuation, free movement. B. Causes chaos, first come first served. C. Is inefficient and delaying. D. Is dangerous. Question 21. During a critical transition period where existing processes are being restructured, what is the most effective approach to maintaining operational stability while implementing changes? A. Immediately replace old processes with new ones to speed up adoption. B. Introduce phased rollouts and pilot programs to test effectiveness. C. Allow individual departments to determine their own transition timelines. D. Focus solely on cost-cutting measures without considering employee adaptation. Answer: B. Introduce phased rollouts and pilot programs to test effectiveness. Explanation: abrupt changes can lead to confusion and disruption, making phased rollouts and pilot programs a more effective strategy. These methods allow organizations to test new processes on a smaller scale, gather feedback, and make adjustments before full implementation. Question 22. In an environment where different components must interact efficiently, what strategy ensures seamless integration between departments? A. Encouraging each department to operate independently to avoid conflicts. B. Relying only on verbal communication for interdepartmental coordination. C. Implementing standardized workflows and integration tools. D. Allowing departments to create their own separate tracking systems. Answer: C. Implementing standardized workflows and integration tools. Explanation: a well-integrated system requires standardized workflows and technological tools that facilitate seamless data sharing and communication. This reduces inconsistencies and improves overall efficiency. Question 23. When dealing with a complex system that shows occasional failures, what is the best approach to diagnosing and resolving the issue? A. Conducting a thorough root cause analysis using systematic methodologies. B. Ignoring minor failures unless they become frequent. C. Restarting the system every time a failure occurs without further investigation. D. Assigning blame to individual employees rather than analyzing the system itself. Answer: A. Conducting a thorough root cause analysis using systematic methodologies. Explanation: root cause analysis techniques such as the 5 whys or fishbone diagram help organizations pinpoint the underlying issues behind system failures. Addressing these causes rather than treating symptoms ensures long-term reliability. Question 24. While analyzing the root causes of sequential problems in a workflow, what should be prioritized to ensure sustainable improvements? A. Identifying and eliminating bottlenecks through process optimization. B. Relying on temporary fixes to keep operations moving. C. Penalizing employees who report recurring issues. D. Avoiding changes to existing workflows even if they are inefficient. Answer: A. Identifying and eliminating bottlenecks through process optimization. Explanation: sustainable improvements come from addressing inefficiencies at their core rather than applying temporary fixes. Process optimization ensures that workflows run smoothly without recurring issues. Question 25. When implementing new protocols in a shared environment, how can an organization ensure compliance across all departments? A. Mandating strict compliance without providing training or guidance. B. Implementing training sessions, monitoring systems, and feedback loops. C. Allowing departments to follow protocols at their own discretion. D. Introducing new protocols without communicating their purpose. Answer: B. Implementing training sessions, monitoring systems, and feedback loops. Explanation: training employees, monitoring compliance, and incorporating feedback mechanisms help ensure that new protocols are understood and followed across all departments. Question 26. In a high-stakes environment where multiple challenges arise simultaneously, what is the most effective way for leaders to prioritize decision-making? A. Addressing issues based on emotional reactions rather than strategic planning. B. Using structured decision-making frameworks like the Eisenhower matrix. C. Focusing only on short-term problems while ignoring long-term strategy. D. Delegating all decision-making to subordinates without oversight. Answer: B. Using structured decision-making frameworks like the Eisenhower matrix. Explanation: structured frameworks help leaders categorize tasks based on urgency and importance, allowing for strategic prioritization and efficient crisis management. Question 27. During an emergency response where multiple areas are impacted, what is the best approach to managing resources effectively? A. Distributing resources evenly across all areas without assessing needs. B. Prioritizing resource allocation based on severity and critical needs. C. Waiting for complete information before deploying any resources. D. Assigning responsibility to one department without cross-functional coordination. Answer: B. Prioritizing resource allocation based on severity and critical needs. Explanation: effective emergency management requires prioritization based on urgency and impact. Critical areas must receive resources first to prevent further escalation. Question 28. In a scenario where efficiency decreases across multiple units, what corrective measures should be taken? A. Implementing performance tracking and process improvement initiatives. B. Reducing workforce numbers to low costs. C. Ignoring the decline in efficiency unless it causes major disruptions. D. Eliminating all standardization efforts to allow for flexibility. Answer A. Implementing performance tracking and process improvement initiatives. Explanation: monitoring performance metrics and continuously improving workflows help organizations identify inefficiencies and implement targeted solutions. Question 29. When developing a solution that must address opposing needs within an organization, what is the most effective approach? A. Choosing one side and disregarding the other. B. Implementing a compromise that incorporates input from all stakeholders. C. Ignoring stakeholder concerns and enforcing a top-down decision. D. Avoiding changes to maintain the status quo. Answer: B. Implementing a compromise that incorporates input from all stakeholders. Explanation: balancing opposing needs requires inclusive decision-making that considers the perspectives of all stakeholders. A well-structured compromise fosters cooperation and long-term success. Question 30. While investigating a complicated issue between different departments, what method ensures a fair and objective resolution? A. Conducting a neutral assessment based on data and facts. B. Taking the side of the department with higher authority. C. Resolving the issue privately without input from affected teams. D. Avoiding conflict resolution to prevent further complications. Answer A. Conducting a neutral assessment based on data and facts. Explanation: an objective approach that relies on factual analysis and neutral assessments ensures fair resolutions while maintaining interdepartmental harmony.